the numbers of women are significantly higher than men. Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, Nana Himanum, distinguished guests, and let me especially recognize Mrs. Gatti. I've been looking for where she's sitting. The first woman president of the Ghana House. Well done, Ifra. Good morning. Thank you very much for inviting me to share thoughts with you in this August forum that has been beautifully curated to champion the interest of women and to empower women to become their best and give of their best to the nation, the world, and the earth. I really commend the visionaries and developers of this extraordinary project. I cannot think of a more effective context for achieving the best of womanhood agenda than the model of the E Foundation, which brings together womanhood at every level and through that empowers the most vulnerable simply by their watching, drinking deep of the wisdom, the style, the perceptions, attitudes, and postures of the more experienced, mature women executive of the nation. As the foremost woman executive of this nation, I'm speaking about myself, pursuant to Article 57(2) of the 1992 Constitution, I thank you beyond the expression of words. Ghana is really grateful for the work of the E Foundation. You have asked me to share insights and experiences on how the justice system is pivotal in advocating for women's rights and addressing gender-based issues, and how the justice system can be instrumental for transforming women into leaders with global impact. I wish to consider the task you have given me in this conversation in a conversation titled A Just Society for Women. I will first set the context for Ghana's justice system so that we can appreciate what a just society should look like. First, law forms the pillars upon which justice is built. It is not desire, it is not attitude or concepts of morality that define justice, but law. Justice is always according to law. And any conduct that contravenes law, no matter how justified it seems in the eyes of the person doing it, is not just. Second, law is extremely territorial. And so what is legal and just in one country or one community may not at all be legal and just in another. So if you drive on the left in South Africa, you have not broken the law. But if you drive on the left in Ghana, you have broken the law. It depends on what the law in that community says. Thus, in forming a more just society, we must first work with a keen awareness of what the law in that society is, and then diligently examine how any relevant law affects the interests and welfare of the unique reality of womanhood. If the effect of any law is inimical to the proper development of womanhood, then our first focus must lie in changing the law so that women are empowered and held within the better legal context. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen present, And I'll stop and acknowledge the presence of Mr. Baden. Last week I spent an exhilarating time going through margins. It's always a pleasure to see your facilities. God bless you for what you are doing for Ghana. The justice system in Ghana is structured within Article 11 of our 1992 Constitution. And it is structured in a 5-tier ladder form. The justice system of Ghana is in a 5-tier ladder form. The 1992 Constitution stands as the highest law of Ghana. Next in power is the enactment, statutes, and legislation passed by Parliament. Third in priority are the orders, rules, and regulations made by any person under the authority of the Constitution and law. At the fourth level is the law as it existed before the coming into force of the 1992 Constitution. And this will include all earlier legislation that existed before the promulgation of the Constitution. At the beginning level, what I call the genesis of law and legality is the common law of Ghana, which includes the customary law of all our ethnic groups and communities, and the doctrines of equity, which are shaped by morality and good conscience. In summary, therefore, what is just in Ghana will begin with our customary norms and practices that our communities practice. These norms and practices, which may be written or unwritten, only cease to have the power of law if an authority set up under the 1992 Constitution or Parliament has passed a specific rule or law that contradicts that traditional practice. And the laws passed by Parliament can themselves be struck down if they contradict the Constitution. So decades back, certain widowhood rights, practices such as female circumcision, and the keeping of women within shrines became the subject of scrutiny, and these were removed from our body of lawful activity, either through the passage of law making them criminal offenses or court orders, what we in the legal industry call jurisprudence. Domestic violence, marital rape, and other forms of spousal abuse that were previously being justified under the projection of traditional practices have been actively swept away and straightened by applying the higher legal edicts of new legislation. A pivotal law is the Domestic Violence Act 2007, Act 732. In this law, we find that prohibitions in certain acts in domestic relations, such as violence against the person, customary servitude, and trial by ordeal, have been criminalized. Under the Constitution, provisions for building a just society are amply woven together, and spousal property rights are provided for under provisions such as Article 22. From this journey, we can see that the justice system of Ghana is not administered only by the courts, but also Parliament, all our executive agencies, and our traditional authorities. We all form part of the justice system that must work in concert and harmony to shape, guide, and enforce a more just society. Whether it is family justice, social justice, economic justice, environmental justice, or gender justice. To the extent that we know the law, we must act within the law and abide by law all the time. So generally, society operates all of context of law seamlessly. The courts or the formal justice system become relevant only when parties disagree on the way forward within their relationship or their transaction. and submit a dispute to court. So when you drive on the right side of the road, you are just obeying law. We are all forming parts of the justice system by the way we act, because we know we internalize and we work in accordance with law. So this is what is articulated by Article 1251 of the 1992 Constitution, when it states that, quote, justice emanates from the people and shall be administered in the name of the Republic by the judiciary, which shall be independent and subject only to this Constitution. And it is administered by the courts and by tribunals around us. Whenever there is a dispute, the courts are empowered by the Constitution, the Court Act of 1993, and the extremely structured rules of court and every other relevant law to act as an independent arbiter and to administer justice by pronouncing on what the law says or how the law should be interpreted and applied. And I'm smiling because I'm sure a few days ago you all witnessed some serious activists telling me to hurry up and give judgment. And I'm smiling because no one can give judgment outside of law. And I told them, you haven't filed your papers. When you file your papers, we can hear you. They said, give us judgment. Justice is always according to law. When we review our country's journey in justice and the rule of law, we can see that Ghana is active in demanding for justice and the shaping of a more just society, though the journey sometimes is slow and not as effective as it should be. Our country has a responsive justice structure found in 5 levels of court with different jurisdictions to cater for every type of dispute, from the district court, the circuit court, the high court, the court of appeal, and the Supreme Court. Around the court systems are other judicial tribunals to assist in resolving disputes early and outside of the strict regimen of the court. These include the judicial committees of traditional councils, which settle disputes relating to chieftaincy, the centers of arbitration, including customary arbitration. Some of them are run by Nana Hima, and tribunals for technical sectors such as tax, the tax tribunal, and tribunals for the telecom industry. All decisions from these tribunals are under the supervisory jurisdiction of the High Courts, and appeals from them go to identified courts. We can therefore be assured that there is a forum to assist with the resolution of every dispute and to give justice if there is disagreement. Now, I will share a few thoughts on how we can move more speedily and effectively towards a more just society for women and through this transform Ghanaian womanhood for greater impact, and then conclude. I think that informal partners of social justice, such as the Key Foundation, which work effectively in empowering women, are a mighty force for building a more just society. The power lies within a small word with great power: mentoring. Mentoring is the process through which a more vulnerable person learns effective principles through listening, being guided, and sometimes simply watching the more mature and stronger person. I have seen a very interesting phenomenon in the judiciary. Until 2007, more than 150 years since Ghana started developing a formal justice system, all the chief justices of Ghana had been men. Then we had our very own Honorable Lady Chief Justice, Justice Georgina Theodora Wood, in 2007. She led the judiciary for 10 years. Immediately after her came Chief Justice Tufakusi, shattering what was left of the glass ceiling over womanhood when it came to this arm of government. But what was also noticeable was that the glass walls around the title, My Lord, His Honor, and His Worship, were also coming down and falling as these women led the judiciary in the justice sector of Ghana. As women saw women lead the arm of government powerfully and also lead powerfully as judges, more women started to push into the judiciary. Today, when judges are sworn in at virtually every level of court, the numbers of women are significantly higher than men. And I have to remind them that I may have to send you to the court in Alerugu and the court in Axim. And I remember there was a group where there were 12 women and one man. And the last group of judges I swore in, one was extremely pregnant, one came with a baby, and just yesterday, the extremely pregnant woman sent me a message, sent me a letter, official letter asking for maternity leave when she just started work. My view is that this fast occurring change is being shaped by mentorship, and example. The art of learning how to manage authority and administer leadership by watching and seeing another woman do it. As women see that others ahead of them have been able to navigate the challenges of womanhood, found in a unique physiology and emotional makeup, and the barriers that traditional structures had arranged around womanhood, they catch the knowledge that yes, we can also reach higher, stronger, and better. Through this environment, infused with stronger knowledge of the needs of women, the formal justice sector is better placed to bring understanding and appreciation of what women need to develop into stronger forms of themselves. It becomes the intellectual duty of the judiciary to find and articulate the appropriate legal principles, precepts, and doctrines to support this evolution of strength for women. And I can assure you, we are up to the task. So, my sisters and distinguished guests, the journey may be slow, but the history of our national journey shows that it has never stood still. It is evolving in the right direction, and we must force it into a faster pace with confidence and knowledge. Let me close by sharing my heart about two elements of our national life and justice administration that is costing this nation extremely highly and which, if not properly examined and dealt with, will affect with inestimable harm the development of womanhood and the women's ability to access prosperity. The first is land management. Rights over land in Ghana are invariably premised on customary law. It is obligations over land management that are regulated by statutes. But as we know, our customary law is extremely diverse and as diverse as our ethnic groupings. Whereas in some locations in Ghana, land is held by families and clans. In some communities, title to land is held by schools and schemes. This changing landscape of who owns rights to land as we travel around the country has become the context for much abuse and confusion. As land gains more and more premium for economic activity, context for family headship and chieftaincy confuse the issue of who is the right person to grant interest in land. This is leading to unsustainable levels of litigation over land, social injustice, economic injustice, and impoverishment of the vulnerable, including the well-meaning investor, the young person who wants to build wealth, women and citizens who must obtain homes and other facilities for quality of life without going through the trauma of just buying the land for it. The second area of concern is what is popularly called Galamsey and sand winning. These abuses of the natural environment is being done in a disorderly fashion and with impunity against the proper operation of law and order. We are all groaning. We are all afraid. We are all pointing fingers, and we all need answers. How can a forum like IB's International Foundation steer our country, help to steer our country in the right direction? This is a country that has steered itself out of slavery, colonialism, military oppression, kalabule, and many forms of practices detrimental to the proper development of women, children, the youth, and the society at large. I'm sure many of the people below 40 don't know and don't understand the word kalabule. But that tells you that we have gone through many waves of serious injustices. Present in this room are many influential women. Women like Esther, who live in palaces and control the conversations in homes where the nation's executives retire to. There are women here with titles who function in executive positions like myself. There are women here who control the directions of nations because of their place in diplomacy and international relations. And there are women here who control businesses and women here who control national agencies like Dr. Darwin. I beg you all to join me in demanding from our nation that we stop the indiscriminate impunity in the disposition of land through unlawful and illegal activities, confusions in land management, and turn our faces towards consideration of what is good for the vulnerable in our society, what is just for the orderly development of communities, and what can bring peace and prosperity. This is the environment in which women thrive best, and we cannot train women without assuring them of economic prosperity, a sustainable environment in which they will be healthy, and most importantly, a nation in which there's respect for the rule of law. I know that if we close our ranks and support each other as we are doing now, and mentor the generations around us, teaching them to respect law and legality, together we can build a society that is a just society for women. Thank you very much, and God bless.